real discreet. I won't say soft spoken because that, people might consider that, a sign of being timid, which the dude isn't at all. He's not a timid vato at all. He's a strong, well respected dude whose word is very revered. You know what I mean? When he speaks, which isn't that much, he's very listened to, and his words are respected 100%. Now he's been around a long time, man. He's held the highest offices, and he continues to be a very high member of the organization in the feds. In the last like 30 years or so, man, I don't think anybody's held, the highest office the amount of time that Pinky has. I mean, it is close between him and Tibbs, but you know when I think about it, man, I'm pretty sure with combined total of years, man, since his first trip to the high office, he has been able to keep himself in that position and good standings for an unfathomable amount of time. Especially in today's age where it's real easy to get caught up in he said, she said, other changes in the administration having a negative impact on your career based on, personality conflicts or favoritism, things of that nature. But man, Pinky's held it down, man, for a long time and kept his name in good standings. And I have never in my career or other people that have had similar, longer, shorter careers that have been, subject to hearing, a lot of inside information. Has anybody ever said anything bad about Pinky, man? Yeah, old Pinky's been around a long time, man. We can go back to the time when him and Chente Arroyo had escaped from the Kern County Jail in 1979, which is a trip because both of those individuals went on to hold, general mesa positions. One of the crazy stories about old Pinky was he was sent during the time the NF had the Civil War, in the I don't know late '70s, very early '80s. Black Bob sent him, over to try to take out Fig, and man, he went on the yard to handle his business, and old sundown Rick ended up getting involved, and knives were brandished, and there was some fighting going on, and Fig ended up getting shot with the Mini 14. He's like, from my understanding, the first person in CDC history to actually get shot with the Mini 14. Prior to that, the gunners only used the 12 gauge with the bird shot. And real quick, an off subject story about that, man, is Tibbs. Man, Tibbs got shot a bunch of times doing a hit with that 12 gauge and still didn't stop. And legend has it that particular hit was the reason that they changed from the 12 gauge to the Mini 14, because man, Tibbs was eating them buckshot rounds like an animal. You guys, man, I know it's hard to picture these old dudes. They're older gentlemen now. They're my father's age. You know what I mean? And it's hard to imagine them being that with the business when you see all these pictures of them recently. But you can't take none of these guys lightly, man. I had heard a lot about Corny, prior to going to Pelican Bay and actually being in the same pod with him. And I was like, in my head, I pictured this savage, just some guy. As soon as you look at him, you get the feeling that he'll peel your cap. Man, Corny's the coolest dude there is, man. He's just mild mannered, well spoken, articulate, intelligent. Just you would never guess, man. He's like with all respect to Corny, man, he kind of reminded me of like a Rasa, Clark Kent. He just had the normal, everyday look, man. You'd pass right by him on the streets and be like, okay, you know what I mean? With the business, man. Pinky with the business. Tibbs with the business. There's so many stories about these guys, and there's no need to fabricate them because they're reality. You can't judge. You can't look at these pictures and be like, oh, that old dude. Man, that old dude will get with your program. He'll jump out of his wheelchair and try to take your win, and that's just reality. In like April of '90, old old dump truck, dump truck. Louis Chavez, parole from Tehachapi Shoe, and Pinky tasked him with running the San Jose regiment. And I only say this. There's not a lot of information about that, but obviously, you can realize if he's given those kind of instructions, what his rank was even way back then. I mean, that's 1990. He escaped from the jail in '79. You know, the man's been around, and the man has never been questioned. He's never been put on any kind of lists. He's never been none of the subjects of major, investigations put on freeze. None of that. He's one of the very few people standing still from, the southern part of California that is in the NF. Tarzan recently passing away last November. You got DC, you got him. You know, there's a debate on Conejo. You know what I mean? Whether, man, is he from LA? Is he from Sac? Is he from Stockton? Is he from wherever? You know what I mean? But I never considered him as a down south familiano like I do Pinky, DC, and Mr. Tarzan for sure. But man, Pinky's been around a while, man, real well respected, and he's with the business, man. You're going up against other NF members. The program. They're gonna respond to violence with violence, especially back in those days. Everybody was strapped. Everybody was willing to go the full mile. Like my story about Tibbs. Man, they just kept shooting him with buckshot, and he kept handling his business. He had a mission, and he was going to complete that mission. And that made a lot of changes within CDC. You can't just keep hitting people no more. They're gonna waste you now. So the San Jose indictments that came out in '92, which sent Serna, Lopez, Trujillo, all those guys to death row. Pinky also got a pretty, significant sentence out of that, which is, contributing to why he'll never come home. You know what I mean? Yeah, he got wrapped up in all that, man. That just goes to reaffirm how long he's been around. Pinky's. When I was in there, I communicated with him when I was in C10 on paper. I never had the pleasure of meeting the individual, but his reputation preceded him. Somebody had went to medical, and I was the block commander in C10 in 98 and 99, 97, 98. And they brought back a missive from him that said, hey, basically you need to report to me. I know what you got going on the streets, and, I'm going to be assuming that role in here. So, which made sense because at that time he was the GOP. Tibbs was the general advocate, and Corny had the streets. So, it made perfect sense. And, and I was just like, yeah, no problem, sir. Anything you need, I got you, et cetera, et cetera. And, man, it was always very cordial. I established a way to communicate to the streets and back to him. And, man, he's a cool dude. You know what I mean? Like, his letters were well received, very respectful, and he had a very clear-cut agenda of what he needed me to do, and I made sure it was done. I didn't play around with that, man. I'm one of them dudes that respect my elders. I don't let the whole I'm this and that kind of trip. Man, whether I am or am not, that's irrelevant to these dudes who have done so much for the O. So I just made sure that I was on my P's and Q's when dealing with him. Furthermore, he talked to Tibbs all the time, and Tibbs is who brought me in. So I didn't want word getting back to Tibbs that, hey, what's up with your boy Rojo? Why this, why that? I just got it done. No matter what it pertained to, no matter if I thought it was ridiculous, none of that. I just clear cut, yes sir, I got you. And what's a trip, man, is a lot of them guys from LA, they maintained over the years throughout all the changes, or not just LA, but down south period, man. In my mind, I automatically think LA when I think south side, but it's a whole vast place with hundreds of cities, thousands of audios. You know what I mean? And they've made good in representing, where they're from. You know what I mean? Even, I know it sounds weird to say, but You know, and it sounds far-fetched, and I get it, but listen, even the Sureños and people from their neighborhoods could be proud of them because they've represented, man, to the fullest. It sounds weird. I get it. I'm the first person to admit it. Like if somebody told me that, I'd be like, what? But man, when you look at it, man, DC's made his people proud where he's from. Tarzan made his people very, very proud. Ain't nothing different about Pinky, man. And you know, it's a shame that none of these guys will get to go home, you know, in their advanced age. You know, like we talked about before, you know, Tibbs tried to get out with the compassionate release, which, you know, leads me to automatically believe he's ill, God forbid. You know what I mean? Because man, I don't want nothing bad to happen to that dude. I got a lot of love and a lot of respect for that dude. Whether he don't like me no more or not, don't matter. That's just how it is. But you know, getting back to Pinky, man, Pinky's been through the life, man, and has never succumbed to any kind of pressure, never folded, never wavered in his convictions at all. And that's a hell of an accomplishment based on the longevity of his career. Now, I usually don't make a habit of reading things, man, but this is a this is from an FBI press release, man, and it has to do with Pinky. You know what I mean? I don't like reading stuff on here. I like to come from the head, but I found this so interesting that I'm gonna go ahead and read it. And it pertains to his wife getting hemmed up with the regiment. And it's this, like I said, it's FBI from the U.S. Attorney, Eastern District, California. Carolyn Huerta, 37, of Castroville, pleaded guilty today to conspiring to traffic methamphetamine. United States Attorney Benjamin B. Wagner announced. The case is a product of an investigation by the FBI's Stockton Violent Crime Task Force, the San Joaquin County Metropolitan Narcotics Task Force, the Stockton Police Department, the Salinas Police Department, the Watsonville Police Department, the Monterey County Sheriff, the CDCR, into the activities of Nuestra Familia, a violent Hispanic prison gang within the Californian federal prison system, whose members exert control over street-level Norteño gang members engaged in drug trafficking and violent crime. Now, according to this document, Huerta is the wife of Nuestra Familia General Joesph Pinky Hernandez. Between 2003 and 2007, Huerta engaged in drug trafficking with NF members, communicated NF-related orders to NF members, and received monthly monetary benefits from NF drug proceeds. Huerta provided a vital communications link to incarcerated NF generals. On May 27, 06, an NF member sent a $300 Western Union money order to Huerta in Florence, Colorado. Now let me stop reading this real quick. This is how good they are. And this is part of why they tried to get me in the past. Just these little money orders that you would think are insignificant, you know, $300, $100. When you're sending something to a made man from any organization, man, each money order is going to be copied, fingerprinted, and put away in a file. I promise you. No warrant, no nothing. Because they're going to assume automatically that it comes from ill-gotten means. You know what I mean? So, you know, you got your homeboy in your regiment that takes these money orders to a homegirl in a different city to mail and, you know, third-party mail and all this stuff. Man, it's a dangerous game. It's the technology they have and the resources they have trump what anybody on the street has, and that's just the truth, man. It's like you can't even deny it. You can't fight it with their surveillance. You know, their unlimited lack of manpower, finances, technology, all that stuff. You can't win. But let me get back to this real quick. I just want to point that out. So be careful. If you do anything wrong, somebody's watching. So let's see. The same day Huerta entered the Supermax prison in Colorado visit Hernandez in an effort to obtain coded communications for the Salinas Regiment. The meeting was ultimately unsuccessful because of the significant security measures in place at the facility. Huerta's travel expenses for this trip were paid using NF drug money. Now, come on, that's kind of far-fetched. You know what I mean? Just to assume that that's where that came from. But that's what they do. They assume, and they figure out ways to make it stick. According to court documents in '04, Huerta would occasionally receive 4 ounces of, we'll call it white man's Colombian, from the NF Salinas Regiment. She was given that without charge. This permitted Huerta to make money from that without paying back any costs associated with that. Huerta received the NF proceeds and that as a fee for facilitating communications between her husband and others. Hernandez exercised ultimate authority over the Salinas Regiment from within the federal Supermax prison in Colorado through Code of Conversations. This case was part of an organized crime drug enforcement task force. Program was established in '82 to conduct comprehensive multi-level attacks on major trafficking and money laundering organizations. The principal mission of this group is to identify, disrupt, and dismantle the most serious trafficking and laundering organizations and those primarily responsible for the nation's drug supply. Huerta is scheduled to be sentenced on June 24, 2013 by United States District Judge William B. Shub. She faces a sentence of 10 years to life in prison and a $10 million fine. Let's be reasonable here. The actual sentence, however, will be determined at the discretion of the court after consideration of any applicable statutory sentencing factors and the federal sentencing guidelines, which take into the account of a number of variables. But now, I read that because, just to give you an example of how thorough and in-depth and how they investigate every little thing, no matter how irrelevant or unimportant it seems to you. And I found this out firsthand when they cornered me, and they left open some paperwork, and they did it intentionally, so I would see what was being said about me by other people who weren't supposed to be saying things, and just the scope of what they had. And they're good. I mean, don't get me wrong. They were aided by other people assisting them to put them on to things initially. But once they get the ball rolling, the ball rolls. And when the feds come knocking, man, it's a slam dunk for them 99.99% of the time. That's why, $20 million investigations, it seems excessive to taxpayers and whatnot, but it's a slam dunk, and are they disruptive? Man, the Black Widow thing kicked off a whole spiral of other factors that have led to turmoil and all kinds of things, man. But anyway, man, this story's about Pinky, man, and, one of the last remaining Southern-born Familianos, man, that's going to be respected until his career ends, however it may be, whether, he unfortunately passes away in there, he gets lucky and gets some kind of reprieve, no matter how it goes down. He's a legend in the history of that group, and there's no disputing it, man. But another thing I wanted to point out, man, is prior to the North and the South becoming, North is aligned with the NF, South is aligned with the MA. This all goes to show it doesn't matter where you're from. Like people say we got a hard program, the Southsiders is a little easier. These guys are from the South. They've handled the program at the highest levels. As Mundo's pointed out, and as I can confirm, all the initial members were from down south for a couple of years. All the leadership, all the rank and file, everybody. That's why coming together as one, which hasn't happened, but there's not as much animosity in jail. What I say many times is everybody's not too much different, man. The only differences is politics. That's it. Everybody's the same in their brain and their hearts and their culture and their heritage, and their pride. You know what I mean? And Pinky's a prime example. And man, hopefully by luck or by whatever, man, them guys will get to spend some of their last days free. Do I think it'll happen? Unfortunately, I don't. You know what I mean? But man, I wish the best for them. I don't have nothing against them. They presented themselves and conducted themselves in my interactions with them with honor, integrity, respect, and you can't take that away from them no matter what side I'm on. So anyway, man, just a little quick something about Pinky, bro. Pinky's with the business. He's been around a long time. He's a doctorate, bro. He's got a doctorate in NF, period. And I wish them guys the best up there, and hopefully they got some money on their books, they're safe, all that good stuff, and It's just my little spiel. You know, I don't know much about the guy, man. I only communicated with him 15, 17, 20 times on paper. But his history speaks for itself, man. And I share a little bit with you guys, and maybe some other people out there know some stories that I don't. Drop them in the comments. Hit me up on a convict's perspective. And I'm gonna go live tonight at 7, and we'll do the winner of that raffle, man. It looks like it's right about $150. So if you guys want to get on before 7, $5 ticket, donate. William OG Flacco on the Cash App. And our membership's still cracking off, man. So if you guys want to jump in that membership, there's a join button, and you'll get all kinds of exclusive content that we don't put on the public platform so much. And we're a lot more available. You know, you jump in these lives on the public platform, it's really, really hard to address every single question, man, because at some points in time, there's 5, 6 questions a second in comments, and then just people, you know, talking randomly and talking to each other. So it makes it much more difficult. We do have that members only. It's pretty dope. Flacco pays real good attention to it. He's on there almost every day. There's hundreds of pictures. There's all kinds of stuff that we don't have time to put out everywhere else. You know what I mean? He has a lot of time in there, you know. So anyway, YouTube, have a good one. Hope you guys enjoyed your Easter, man. I'll be back at you tonight at 7 o'clock Pacific time. And enjoy the rest of y'all's day. Appreciate you. One love.